that's my type.
Hey friends, this is RODERICMARTEZ back again for another video, and if you guys read the title, then you pretty much know what this video is going to be about. I've been contemplating doing this video for about a year now, and I used to be scared to talk about it publicly because I didn't want to come off as weak to you guys, but to be quite honest, I know that when you tell a story or talk about a personal testimony or something that you've been through, a lot of times that story and that experience can help people who are going through similar situations or who have been through similar situations. And quite frankly, telling my story could help somebody prevent a situation like this from happening with them. So I feel like it's also really important to talk about this and bring this up because as a community, and by community I mean the LGBTQ+ community, we don't really talk about sexual assault amongst each other, and it happens way more often than people would like to think. I feel like it happens so much more than what is actually talked about amongst men, and specifically black men. And I feel like if anything, if I'm supposed to be this advocate and this voice in my community, then I have a duty to speak up and talk about my experiences and talk about how we need to unify and stop these things from happening. I've honestly had like several conversations with people about their experiences with sexual assault, and to be quite honest, it's like kind of alarming at like the rate at which this stuff is happening. I feel like there should be no reason that so many people go through this or so many people go through these same things, because it's just not right. And I know that there's a spectrum of sexual assault. Like, I know we all hear the horror stories about the girl at the party who was wearing the wrong clothes, decided to get blackout drunk, and she got taken advantage of by several guys. That's not always the case. And I'm not saying that one case is more important than others, but what I am saying is there are levels to it. But regardless of that, sexual assault in any form is wrong. I think that before we get into this video, I want to give some definitions. So first definition being sexual assault. Sexual assault is an act in which a person intentionally sexually touches another person without that person's consent, or coerces or physically forces a person to engage in sexual acts against their will. It is a form of sexual violence which includes rape, forced vaginal, anal, or oral penetration, or drug-facilitated sexual assault, groping, child sexual abuse, or the torture of a person in a sexual manner. And then the next definition that I want to talk about is consent. Consent occurs when one person voluntarily agrees to the proposal or desires of another. It's a form of common speech with the specific definitions as used in such fields of law, medicine, research, and sexual relationships. So I just wanted to give you guys those definitions before we actually get into the story and start talking about how this stuff took place and what exactly happened. Also, I want to bring to you guys' attention that it's really common for people who are sexually assaulted for the aggressor to be somebody that they know and trust. Honestly, I think that most of the time it is somebody that they know and trust that does this to them. A lot of times when I think about my story or how this happened to me, I think about whether or not it was my fault because of the type of person that I am. You guys know that I am a free spirit. I feel like sometimes this gets me into trouble, but like I said before, I don't think that there's anything that a person can do to make them deserve to be taken advantage of. Okay guys, so before we get into the story, I want to give you guys a little bit of the background information. So all of this happened about 2 years ago. It was in 2018. It was before I actually came out on social media to all of you guys, but it was right after I had told my mom and started telling all of the people who were important to me in my life about my sexuality. So I was really just beginning to understand and accept who I was and like my place on the LGBTQ spectrum, and just like really figure out who I was. So I feel like during this time of my life, I was pretty naive, especially to like people's desires and, you know, their intentions, especially when it came to gay people. So a little bit of background about me and this person's relationship. He was about 10 years older than me, and he was somebody that I trusted, somebody that I talked to very regularly, and we honestly had a great relationship. I never thought that anything like this would happen. He was about 10 years older than me, and he lived out of state, but we were very close, like I said. I knew that that this person was gay, or I knew that he was attracted to men. I don't want to like label anybody, but I knew that he was attracted to men. But I also knew that there were some identity issues that he had because he wasn't out, didn't want to be out, and it was weird like talking about like how he felt about his sexuality, because I feel like he didn't really know. And I'll tell you guys later in the story how I feel like that played out within the situation and his own confusion with his sexuality and why I feel like it happened, how it happened, but that's what it was. So this person also knew a few of my other friends, and one weekend, it was after the summer had ended, we decided that we were going to go out of town to, you know, hang out for the weekend. So like I said, the group of friends that I was going out of town with also knew who this person was, and they all had relationships with him as well. They, however, were not even gay, LGBTQ, like they were straight. So we decided that we were going to stay at his house because it would just be financially responsible. Like nobody had to pay for a hotel or Airbnb. Like we just were going to stay at our friend's house. So I really didn't think that anything like what happened was going to happen. My two friends stayed in the guest room, and then my other two friends stayed on the couch, and then the guy had a futon in his bedroom, and that's where I stayed. You know, and honestly, when we got there, it just ended up being like a regular weekend. Like we had started drinking, we went to the club, and everybody was having a great time. So this is where stuff starts to get real. Like I had told you how the person had issues understanding their own sexuality. When we were at the club, this person had started like twerking. And you know, for somebody who identifies as straight, like that's just not socially like acceptable. So I had walked over and like stopped him. But mind you, we were at a straight club, so I didn't understand like the placement of like these behaviors. It just like socially, it just was like, if you're trying to convey being a straight man, I don't see why you'll be twerking at a straight club, because at that point you're outing yourself. But that's just a little like perspective to this whole thing. So he clearly, since he couldn't make these judgments, he was very drunk himself, or so I thought. But I had been drunk too. So once we get back to his house, it was literally like a regular night coming back from the club. And I have to keep on saying that this is a regular night because I feel like when these things happen to somebody, like you just don't expect them to happen. You don't expect it to happen how it happens. And a lot of times you don't even think that these things could happen to you. And I feel like in my head, I never thought that this could happen to me because like, what? But we get to the house, and I wouldn't say that I was completely messed up to the point where I couldn't walk or anything, but it was one of those nights where I was very drunk. Like it was noticeable that I was very drunk, and I made my way to the futon just fine. But I know that there wasn't really a build up to this story, but this is literally where it happens. So I passed out on the futon, and sometime within that night, I woke up to him giving me oral sex, or giving me head. I woke up to him giving me head. And in the situation, I was so stunned, I didn't know what was going on. Like I literally passed out like this. Like I was sitting on the futon. So as this is happening, like I honestly didn't know what to do. Like we had several situations where I've verbally told him that I never wanted anything sexual with him. I don't want this. This will never happen. Like I'm not even the type of person that gives like mixed signals. Like I'm a pretty flirtatious person with my friends, but that's just how I am. But when it comes to actually like having sex with somebody or doing sexual things with people, I have no problem telling you that I am or that I'm not interested. And that was what had happened the few times that he had decided that he was coming on to me. I told him that I wasn't interested. I told him that it would never happen. So when he was doing those things to me, I just felt violated, but I didn't know how to express it in that moment. So I let the things continue, and I let him continue doing what he was doing, and I just let the situation happen. But like nothing came from it. Like there was no finishing. Like honestly, it just stopped. Like I ended up like stopping the situation because it wasn't going anywhere, and I just felt wrong. I felt violated. That's really all. But I thought honestly that this was going to be something that I could recover from. Like after it happened, I tried to put it in my head that he was just drunk too, and I tried to make up every single excuse in the book as for how he ended up getting from his bed all the way over to the futon and doing what he did. I knew that there was no way that I could have, coerced him into doing this or convinced him to do this because I had passed out. And the more that I thought about the situation, the more that I thought about how it happened, the more disgusted I became with him. I didn't want want to look at him. I didn't want to talk to him. And mind you, this is all going through my head the next morning because we had planned on staying at his house for the whole weekend. And I just did not know what to do. Like, I didn't tell anybody. I definitely felt a mood shift. Like, it was like that small act had taken so much out of me. I don't really even know how to describe it besides if you've had a similar situation, then you know exactly what I mean. When somebody takes something from you, and I'm not talking about like a material thing, but violates you in that way and decides that they're going to take your body, it's kind of like, it weighs on you mentally. And I know it was small, and that's why I brought up the spectrum of sexual assault, but the effects that it has on you afterwards are tremendous because, like I said, I would have never thought that this could have happened. And like, I'm really free-spirited, so there have been times in my life where I've made split decisions when I was drunk and had parties, wild parties, and hooked up with people, but it was different because in my head, you're somebody who I trust to the point where like, you're my mentor. You are my big brother. This is not something that I ever wanted from you. Like, I feel like it would be different if it was a friend, because I've hooked up with my friends before, but it wasn't the same. Like, it's just in conjunction with me telling you that this will never happen and me expressing to you verbally that this is not something that I wanted. I didn't even look at you that way. So to say the least, after this had taken place, the mood was just different. Like, I felt weird. I didn't want to be in his space. I didn't want to be in the environment. And I did end up staying another night, but I literally slept on the floor downstairs, like by the couches next to my two other friends, because I was just really uncomfortable. Like, I didn't even have fun the next night when we went out. It kind of just like ruined the whole trip. Hey guys, so something happened with like the video and the footage got deleted, but I wanted to finish up by, giving a little bit of information on how the situation ended and what our relationship is like now because of what happened. So I believe that we left off on the part where I had said like I woke up on Sunday morning and that was after I had slept on the floor. I ended up leaving early Sunday morning just because I really wasn't comfortable just staying there anymore. And all of my friends, like, we didn't drive together, so I just ended up leaving alone. I just wanted to be out of that situation. But I really, in my head, I wanted to just let it all go and I wanted to like never think about it again, but it was so hard. Like, it was just weighing on like my mental health like very heavily and I just really didn't know what to do. So I pretty much avoided talking to him for about a month. And then after that month, I just told him like why I was being distant, and it was because I felt like what had happened should have never happened. I felt like he had forced himself upon me and taken advantage of me, and that's what I told him. But even then, after I got that off my chest, I thought that that was going to be enough to make me feel better, but it wasn't enough at all. And then I ended up like still avoiding him and not talking to him, and I finally ended up having another conversation with him, which was way more aggressive because I think that he wasn't able to understand why I was distancing myself. And I kind of just like let him have it. And honestly, that made me feel better for like a few days, but there still wasn't anything that I could do about the feelings. So I just avoided talking to him completely. And then we ended up seeing each other a few months down the line. And I feel like I kind of forgot about the situation a little bit and it kind of healed on its own, but I still didn't really feel comfortable being around him. And I didn't even tell a lot of people what had taken place. But when I did tell somebody who also knew him, they were around the same age as him, they confronted him about the situation and they made a big deal about it. And honestly, I never really wanted it to be a big deal. I never wanted to be a victim. I never wanted to be seen as weak by anybody. So I feel like that's why I didn't talk about it, because in my head, I was a victim. But looking back at the situation now, 2 years later, I realized that I needed somebody to be mad for me. I needed somebody to stand up for me when I couldn't stand up for myself because I didn't know what to do. And there were repercussions on his end for the things that he had done. And honestly, that made me feel good. Like, that made me feel better. I felt like after actions were taken against him and he faced some consequences for the actions that he took, I felt better. And that's really all to the story. I don't want to give too much information or anything, but yeah, a lot of times you need to talk about the things that you go through or the experiences that you have, because handling something like sexual assault on your own is hard and damn near impossible, to say the least. I don't think that if I didn't have my friend who took action, like, I would be okay. I feel like those lingering effects of what had happened that weekend could have lasted forever. Like, I don't even think that I was making connections with other people after that stuff happened. Like I said, it seems like such a small thing that happened, but it really wasn't small at all. Like, the action took a lot out of me, and it was just wrong. Like, sexual assault takes a piece of somebody, and I know that these things can happen within minutes, literally seconds, but when somebody violates you in that way, it's a lot. So currently, me and this person do not have a relationship at all. We probably will never have a relationship. I don't wish any harm to this person, but I feel like what he did to me, it's forgiven, but I'm never gonna forget that, and there's really nothing for us to talk about at this point. I feel like there were lessons learned on both ends. On my end, I feel like I learned that you need to be cognizant of the people that you're around, and you need to pay attention to red flags. For example, when he was hitting on me, I should have thought about this. Well, maybe this isn't the person who I need to be getting drunk around. Maybe I should watch myself more carefully when I'm around somebody who doesn't know how to take a hint. For him, I think that the reason why I kept on bringing up his sexual identity and the issues that he had with it were that when you aren't able to accept who you are and accept your desires and your wants within yourself, these things can sometimes present themselves in situations that are inappropriate. Like, I was gonna say I don't really fault him for what he did, but I definitely do. I think that what he did was wrong. But in a way, I could kind of understand how he did it, or how things were misconstrued in his head. I feel like when somebody doesn't exactly know how to maneuver within like the gay world, or maneuver with, LGBT people, since our community is oftentimes hypersexualized and everybody associates sex with gay men and gay relationships, people think that things like sexual assault don't really happen, which is why we don't talk about them often. But I think that from this situation and the consequences that he faced, he could definitely learn a few things. I wish the best for him. I hope that he continues to find himself and accept who he is, accepts the things that he likes, because I've been able to do the same for myself, and my life has been way better since. So I hope that he figures out like the things that he wants in life, because not being yourself, you guys see, it can cause a lot of different issues within your life. And sometimes they just bubble up to be very, very detrimental, like what happened in my case. So right now, I would say that I've healed from the situation. Like, I don't have any malice in my heart, but it was definitely a learning experience that I wouldn't wish on anybody at all. So, like I said in the beginning of this video, I really just wanted to bring up this story to promote awareness of sexual assault amongst my audience. I really wanted to let you guys know that, like I said, this can happen to anybody. If I never told you guys the story today, you would never know that it happened to me. And I know that there's a lot of people who never talk about this, and in order to bring awareness to sexual assault and actually stop it, you have to tell your story. And I want my story to serve as help for somebody else, whether that be knowing that there are other people who go through similar situations, or I want this story to possibly help prevent somebody from going through what I had to go through, because it was hard. And like I said, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And honestly, like I said, there is a spectrum of sexual assault. But every single story about sexual assault and every single experience about sexual assault is valid. It doesn't matter who it's coming from. Every single story is valid, and everybody should have a place to speak on their story and their experiences. So I'm going to go ahead and drop some resources for sexual assault and mental health down below in the description box. And I want you guys to take a look at them and just check out different statistics. And I hope that those can really help you guys. And don't hesitate to reach out to me. Like I always say, my DMs are usually open. If anybody wants to talk about their situation, I'm here. I always want to serve as an advocate and as a voice in our community. And I want to be that person that people can reach out to and actually talk to, and hopefully I can help some of you guys. If you guys have had similar experiences, feel free to talk about it down in the comment section. I really want to have a discussion about this and how it actually affected you and people around you, your mindset, your mental health. I really want to talk about those things because I feel like that's the only way to get over them. But with all that being said, this video has come to a close, and I really appreciate you guys for watching it till the end. Make sure if you haven't done so already, you hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, and comment your thoughts down below. Also, turn on the notification bell so you get notified every single time I post a video. So, yeah guys, I guess this is it. See ya.